How's it going, guys? Welcome back to another Godot video, where today I'm going to be showing you how to make a character move. So basically today we're going to be covering character movement, the animation for the character, and everything you need to know about like jumping, gravity, everything like that. So with that said, let's go ahead and actually do something first. Let's go ahead and delete the sprite character here for the animation. So let's go ahead and click plus. We'll go animated sprite 2D. We're going to create that, which is basically like a sprite but with an animation. So you can go ahead and go to animation here, sprite frames, new sprite frames, and go ahead and click on that. We'll have a default animation here. We can rename it to idle, like so. And we can go ahead and get all our idle animation in here. Let's move it a little bit down and put it back in the collision box here. And as you can see here, there's a couple things you need to know about the animation. There's this right here. So basically, it just plays as soon as you load the game. So as you can see, if I actually select that and I run the program now, as you can see, the animation is going to play regardless. Now, of course, we have that script from last episode right here. We're going to be changing that today, but as you can see, the animation plays regardless of where you are or what you're doing. It plays at the start. This looping here basically means that the animation is, well, looping. So if I go ahead and play the animation here, which you can preview, so as you can see, if I play it, it keeps looping around and around. If I turn this off, the animation plays only one time. As you can see, it plays once, and there you go. Now, we want this to be on for most cases, and we want this to be 10 so that it runs faster. As you can see, 10 FPS is much faster than something like, say, 2 FPS. As you can see, it's too slow. So the ideal here is probably 10, and there you go. Now what we want to do is we want to actually create the other animations. So we have the run animation here. Now we're going to set all of them to 10 FPS, just so that you know. And we're going to make the idle animation the start animation, like so. And let's go ahead and get all the run images here, just drag and drop. And as you can see now, if something is in the wrong order, you can bring it back here, for example, like so. Of course, we don't want that. You can go ahead and duplicate one of them by copying and pasting it. You can do basically whatever you want here. Right, so there we go, run animation. Next up, we have the jump animation. And we don't want this one to loop, actually, because we're going to be jumping once. The animation is going to play once. We don't want it to play a million times. So let's go ahead and take the 3 frames here, like so. As you can see, you can always preview them. As you can see, you can replay it, see. As you can see, if we're jumping, we don't want this to play, for sure, definitely. So we're going to be turning that off. And now it'll just go ahead and play one time, just like we wanted to. Next up, we need another animation for our falling animation, which is not even an animation. It's just one sprite here. And let me just drag and drop it like so. There we go. And it really doesn't matter what the FPS is. I'll just set it, just to make it the same as all of them. As you can see, it just goes ahead and falls. It really doesn't matter when it comes to settings here because there's only really one image. So with that said, we've got our animation set up. Let's head to the code now. If we go to the script here, we can see the player.gd. You see all of that? Just delete it, okay? Except for the extends character body 2D. Definitely don't delete that. Oh, and the move and slide. You need to keep that however it is, like so. Now, first up, we're actually going to be creating a couple of variables. Don't mind that. Let it give the error. So basically, first of all, we're going to be creating a var speed, and I'm going capital case here to make it obvious that this is a constant, meaning that it's not going to change. Oops, not like that. We're going to make it an integer, and it's going to be equal to 150. Now, of course, you can play around with the values to make sure that you have the value that you want to actually have when it comes to the speed. Now, we're going to go var, not jump force, let's go var gravity. Of course, it's going to be an int. And we're going to set the gravity to something like 900. Now, of course, I've played around with the values, so I know they're good. But you go ahead and play with the values and see what's right for you. And so with that said, let's go ahead and do the var, not var. We'll make it a jump underscore force. This is also going to be an int, and we're going to set this one equal to 255. With that said, we're going to be making a new function now, but before that, let's make it actually easier to, change the values. So now if I go, for example, to the player here, as you can see, I can't change the values of these variables in the inspector here. And to be able to do that, we can do @export, and then there you go. Now, wait for a second here, and there we go, as you can see. Now, make sure that you have no errors in your code so that this actually updates and works. Well, yeah, there we go. We have the player.gt here. I exported all of them. As you can see, I can change the values from here. So if I go 301, it will go ahead and change somewhere in here probably. I don't know why it says 300 here. It's supposed to be actually 150. I don't know why it says 300. I can't. I don't know. See? Yeah. Okay. Whatever. We'll keep it as it is. I mean, we're not really going to be changing the speed, but we might be changing something like the gravity, for example. Anyways, let's go ahead and actually start by doing a special function. So I'm sure you all know about the first two functions, the process and the ready. Now we're going to be introducing yourselves to another function, which is called the physics underscore process. Basically, this allows you to implement physics in your character, for example, while acting like the process function, so it runs infinitely. With that said, let's go ahead and start. So let's actually take in the direction first. So let's create a brand new variable called direction. Of course, we don't want to export that one because we're not really using that anytime soon. And we're going to set this equal to the input dot get access, like so. And before that, I actually want to clarify something here. I want to go to the project settings, input map, and you want to add new action, for example, something like left, for example. You can click enter. And then you can add the keys here. So for example, I don't know, I want S, for example. I click enter. And you want to do that because instead of taking single keys here, so instead of saying, for example, well, I want it to run when I click the left button, for example, or the right button, or whatever it is. Let's say I wanted to like just run an action, and it could be either left or right. It could be left or A, it could be right or D, it could be space, W, or up. You can go ahead and do that by basically typing the name of the action. So as you can see, I can type in left, not like that, left, and right, like so. Now, basically here, what we're doing here with this entire thing here, we're getting the input, and the dot get access basically makes it know that we're taking a direction input, basically left or right. So basically, or up and down or whatever. So basically, the first value inputs -1, and the second value inputs 1. So basically, we have, if we press the left key button, so as you can see, if I go ahead and do print the direction, and I run the game, as you can see, if I click the right arrow, as you can see down here in the console, it's typing 1. I'm holding the right arrow. As you can see, if I unhold it, it goes ahead and returns to 0. Same with the left arrow, and back to 0. Same with the A, same with the D, everything like that. So with that said, we know the direction is working. Let's actually proceed with our work here. So we're going to do if the direction, basically. So if direction actually has an input, we're going to do the velocity.x, which is basically our character movement, for example, is equal to the direction times the speed. So basically what we're doing here is we're taking our direction. So let's say our speed is 150, like here, for example, we're taking the direction, so right, and basically we're moving that direction. So we're having the character move in the, like for example, the speed is 150, so it moves 150 pixels to the right. Now if we have output as -1 as left here, if we multiply -1 by 150, we'll have -150, and so it moves to the left basically. Now let's actually do the animation. So we're going to do if is on the floor, so we're going to have the movement even when we're on the air, but we want to play the animation only if we're on the floor, because of course nobody's running in midair. So with that said, some very easy way to actually reference a game object here, instead of typing get node or anything like that, just drag and drop it here, easy, like so. And so we do animated sprite here dot play, and we're going to play the run animation because, well, we're running. Now we're going to go back here to the if direction here in the same level, and we're going to do else. So basically, if we're not moving, if the direction is 0 basically, then we're going to set the velocity.x to 0, so just so that we don't keep moving infinitely. And we're going to play another animation, which is the idle animation. We're going to return to playing the idle animation. There we go. The simple movement is done, as you can see now. If okay, it doesn't work. So I need to, of course, uncomment that. That is very important. The move and slide is insanely important here. Make sure you do not forget that. So with that said, as you can see, I go ahead and move. As you can see, the run animation isn't working, of course, because I'm not actually touching the floor. So let's deal with the gravity real quick. So the dealing with the gravity is actually way easier than you might think. So if not is on the floor, so if we're not on the floor, obviously, then we're going to set the velocity.y to actually plus equals the gravity times the delta, or basically the time, like so. So basically we're going to keep increasing our falling speed until we hit the ground. So that's pretty self-explanatory here. And you might be thinking, why are we increasing the velocity.y if we want to go down, not up? And it's actually a really good reason. That's because Godot's system works kind of differently here. So if we move right, that's positive x. If we move left, that's negative x. If we move up, that's negative y. And if we move down, that's positive y. So it acts kind of differently here. So we're going to subtract, or so we're going to add so that we can actually drop down. And of course, we're going to play the animation of falling, but only if we have our y velocity. So if velocity.y is greater than 0, so if we're actually falling, then we're going to play the fall animation, which is essentially just one frame, if we're really talking here. But I mean, it's really whatever. So that's how. Let's go ahead and run the game. And as you can see, we're on the ground now. We can move, and as you can see, the run animation is working, but there's only one issue. Our character isn't flipping, and that can easily be fixed with a simple line of code here. Just a simple check. So basically, if the direction is 1, or basically right, we set the animated sprite here. Let me just copy that, paste it here. So we're gonna do that. The flip edge equals to false, and we're gonna take this again. We're gonna head down, and elif here, the direction is -1, so basically we're moving left. We're gonna set the flip to true, just so that we flip our character, because our character is normally facing right. As you can see now, if I move left, the character faces left. Cool. So now that's everything done, and we have the gravity even working, and the fall animation, as you saw, is also working. Now we just need one more thing, which is the jumping, which is also pretty easy, believe it or not. So that said, we're gonna detect for the input dot action just pressed. So action just pressed, not pressed, just pressed. And we want the jump action, so it's either space, W, or the up arrow key. Now, of course, you can treat it as individual keys, but it's better to, do that just so that you have some variation when it comes to the controls in your game. And so with that said, we're going to do that. We're going to also do and is on floor, because we don't want to jump if we're midair, obviously. Then what we're going to do is we're going to set to the velocity.y minus equals, so that means we go up the jump force, basically the variable we set up here, and we're going to play the jumping animation, of course. Make sure you set the jumping animation to not loop, just like we did at the beginning of the episode here. That actually looks good, and as you can see now, we jump, we fall, we have both animations, we can walk around, we can jump into the void, and we're gone. We're gone into the abyss. So with that said, that's it. That's really the player movement that you need to know here. So next episode, we're going to be dealing with stuff like the player health and the fall damage. So stay tuned for that. And if you like the video, make sure to like and subscribe. And I will see you guys in the next video.